I need to talk to you about Goodrich. And welcome Cinema, where we focus on the film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of Goodrich, if you've seen it. Do you like it, do you not like it, or somewhere right in the middle, or if you're waiting for this review to decide if you're going to see it or not. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you find it beneficial to your needs, what you're getting out of this channel as a whole, and getting right into the synopsis. Andy Goodrich's life is upended when his wife leaves him in order to take on rehab, leaving him alone to take care of the kids, but leaning on the daughter from his first marriage, Grace, he must learn how to become the father to his kids that Grace never had. And getting right into the review, first off, I like to say I was thoroughly impressed what we're getting out of it. It came out of left field. I sort of knew the synopsis and premise going into it, that it would sort of be my type of movie. I didn't watch the trailer just in regards to not wanting to see anything that might give away certain details or things that I would love for the film to give away itself, and it just really shook me to the core. Just what we're getting out of the details, what we're getting out of Haley Myers-Shire as the director, her directorial sophomore debut, just did something extra grand to the nature of this film. And where I'm going to put a disclaimer is it's not going to necessarily work for everyone. It's not going to hit hard. It's sort of fitting the niche group that I sort of fall in, where this is a film that's almost in a loose genre, if you would call it, where it's movie characters that feel like movie characters, but they're placed in a situation where they could be anyone in real life, putting in real situations. And that really works in with the dialogue, with the actions, with the motivation, all the characters that are going on throughout. It's not necessarily going to have all the characters you love based on their situation, but based on the situation also, it handles everything to a T and feeling more surreal because of the experience you're all going to go on with it. If you're into drama, something that's really grounded and down to earth, this could really work for you, as it does for me. And that leads me into Michael Keaton just giving one of his best performances for me personally, at least for someone that loves this type of genre. The editing is snappy and quick. All of the dialogue is witty or quick, grounded. There's small little jokes here and there that don't try and call attention to themselves, but it gives you quite a few laughs here and there where you're going about. It's not trying to be a strong comedy, and it's not overly dramatic with some of its remarks, but that doesn't keep it from being funny and from being strongly emotional, especially for the way the film works in for my personality, what I'm receiving out of it. And going back to Michael Keaton, he is charismatic, he's fun, but he also has this character arc that is really down to earth, becoming this father that's sort of estranged to his children, both with the child Grace from his first marriage, as well as his twins that he's now left on his own, which the film offers limited time to just get right off the ball rolling. And his wife is in the opening scene calling him to say she's in rehab, and so it delivers that right off the bat and manages to take on this scene that really is heavy, really has some good editing, certain things where it's flashing back and forth between the realization that Michael Keaton's character has with everything that's going on after a call, and then also having a call as well. But even going on throughout, there's multiple different scenes that I can't necessarily remember distinctly every little detail that happened, but I remember the emotional impact from coming out of the theater and just being drawn with an emotional train wreck, just everything we got out of it, the suspension, the build of all the emotional scenes, certain things, all the different comedic elements that worked effectively, and getting Michael Urie as his friend that he meets Terry later on within the movie. He just has a fun charisma as a gay character that has his own son, is connected through the children of what we're getting out of Michael Keaton's character, just being able to handle, and they have character performances that work as characters, feeling still, like I said before, down to earth, really humane, and just speaking to the hope, to the flaws of humanity, certain things we're getting out of estranged fathers, and hope for forgiveness, hope for getting past mistakes, but also adding in these real situations where you're not necessarily going to get all the forgiveness that you had for the mistakes you made in the past. It's not always going to end up in the situation or in a manner where you hope it to be. It's not always a happy ending, but it's not always a downer either. It's not melodramatic too strongly, and it has the hopeful moments of life that is speaking through what Grace is as a character. Just what we get out of her performance as well is just great, where she's hopeful, she's connecting with her father at one moment, but then she also has this scene where she's just really open about her feelings, her emotions, because she didn't get the life that she wanted, or things where she's connecting to her father in the way that it should be, especially when things begin to become more resolved. However, that views that I'm not necessarily going to spoil for the situation that how Michael Keaton's character changes over the arc of the film, but that really opens the film where I just have these thoughts, hoping certain things are going to happen, and they don't always happen in the way or the timing that I expect them to, but that's what really works effectively, because it takes the time to build upon its stakes, build upon the character development, to make it feel more real, more down to earth, to the nature of how humans evolve, especially at this period of his life. Michael Keaton playing a 6-year-old, that he's not always going to change right away, and being thrown into this situation where he has to take care of the 9-year-olds on his own. He doesn't get it right away. It takes quite a few hiccups. There's some ups, there's some downs, but most of all, it's a sense of humanity that works effectively based on the groundwork that's laid through real life situations, not basing it on real life characters or real life people, but being able to handle all the situations to a T, to the way that works effectively and emotionally, even if it's not a strong emotional moment on the left side or on the right side, even if it's something that's simple and just a normal conversation. That's where, once all of those other moments work strongly for me, even a simple conversation, little humor moments and bits here and there, little ups and downs within the characters, whether it's working on their favor or taking away, where it's just an emotional side. Each and every beat can work effectively for me and work heavily for me because of all the moments that work within the subtleness of their conversation, the dialogue, everything that goes about with the acting. That there's some strong performances, and there's charisma, and there's dramatic moments that go about not only with Michael Keaton, but with Michael Urie, what we're getting out of all of these other side performances, that it's not a stat cast, there's not A-listers, but there's still something to be said about all of these side performances that's not Michael Keaton, that you're getting so much out of them that delivers on such a great performance because of the script, because of the dialogue, how it interworks all the realistic situations in this unrealistic, based on nothing setting, that really works in with the camera work, with the setting, how it bounces off of the dialogue, feeling grounded within the nature of what you're doing with these characters, how you're working it in with the setting, and just with the passion that's gone into work, how that not only exploits the human nature of Michael Keaton's character or someone else's character, and defending that situation, being able to understand where he's coming from, but also him being able to come to terms and come to a situation where after a while he realizes the life that he's lived and certain regrets he's had, but not having an overly dramatic downer moment, and certain situations with his character where there's some openness and being able to express himself, but also a hidden self because he's secret with his life, being able to confine himself to his job, being so passionate about that, and being able to recognize some of the problems that have come about with that, certain revelations he learns with his character that comes about along the way, that manages to open himself up that much more with a poignant ending, with a strong way of coming about with his character arc, but still being able to bounce off all these other characters that have their own ounce of motion, with the flow of the story, with the cinematography that really works wonders to the natural longevity of the film, that doesn't always necessarily speak wonders to the colors or something that is all going about, but the colors feel intentional and naturally down to earth. That works effectively with the setting. Like I said, it won't necessarily work for everyone because of how grounded it can be, how normal the situation and setting can feel for people that may or may not be connected to this situation, about a strange father, about someone that may or may not have that situation in real life, but just the situation that pulls it off effectively, that even though I don't necessarily connect with that environment, with that type of character setting, I connect with the movie characters that are thrown into real life situations. Another benefit that works to the nature of this film as a whole is just a balance and portrayal of time over the course of this film, just having different representations, making it obvious what sort of season it is, sort of taking place in the summer, fall season at the beginning, going throughout a personal look at Halloween, and sort of ending in the area of Christmas, and the flow and nature of that, what makes it obvious and evident of the passing of time, goes and adds upon the basis that I'm talking about, where there's layers to needing time for someone to change, especially this much later in their life, being able to change their character, change the nature of who they are as a person, someone that goes from estranged from their kids to beginning to learn more about them, and being able to look at the fact that it's taken place over 90 days, and choosing obvious seasons such as Christmas and Halloween to show that evident look at the evolution of time and the evolution of characters that goes about with the impact of them, knowing that because the mother is gone, we got a Goodrich that is raising his kids, and having to look at that change in personality throughout step 1 to step 2. It's evident based on the situation, the look at the scenery, and everything that goes about with the seasons that goes about that, and just the ideas all just work effectively as a whole because of the nature of the flow of the story and the natural look at how change in real life can take a longer time based on how this story portrays it as a whole. Which leads me on to talk about his wife, to which her performance, there's not much of it. Of course, we're getting her talk with him at the beginning of the film. Like I mentioned, that's how we're starting off. That's how we're getting the film started right off the bat with its premise, not wasting any time. But she is not seen until more toward the end. You're sort of left with the mystery of how she'll show up, what will all go down, and certain things that will interact with the nature of the kids, his evolution as a character, his arc, and the questionable arc of will she connect with him in the same way that works on based on what we're leading on with the questions that are all left open at the beginning of the film, the mystery of how things will evolve, what his arc looks like. And so that's what's one of the surprisingly good elements about the film, is her absence for most of it works effectively for him having to raise his kids sort of having certain interactions with her that aren't seen, but that's what it adds in that little touch of magic to something that I did not expect to connect with so much, that builds upon the foundations of not only the kids that have great performances, by the way, not only Grace as the raised kid, the one that's more grown up, but also the younger kids. They have good performance. They have good amount of screen time. They're not necessarily the main characters, but obviously they have a good balance in the foundation to what works for Michael Keaton's character arc, that makes so much more sense for Mr. Goodrich to evolve as a character, and just the kids, but also the wife. Her absence means so much for the film, yet has so much of a prevalent relation to what is all going on with the film, that where it all leads up later on in the film, and also the appearance of his ex-wife as well, does something to the film that makes sense to the story, the flow of it, and surprisingly with the editing, being able to not really skip a beat over what the story remarks have to say about his character, about his arc, certain things that are going about with his kids, other relationships with who he's meeting up with, his friends along the way, as well as his people at work, how he is viewed as a human in his own flaws, but also his own positive remarks as a businessman, as a family man, and just what you're getting all out of that just makes it so poignant by the nature of the flow of the story, the cinematography, the aspects that I just love each and every aspect as a whole. And like I said, it may not work for everyone just because it is more down to earth. It doesn't have a lot to express. It's not an action film. It's not a heavy drama film, but like I said, it still has those dramatic emotions that evolves well with the little laughs that you can have along the way, build upon the character relationship that don't have a lot to speak on for those that may not relate to what the situations are dealing with. But for me personally, these are the type of films that work effectively, which gives me a rating of simply 9.5 out of 10. That's just my personal review for Goodrich. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Or is it somewhere right in the middle? Or if you're waiting for this review to decide if you're going to see it or not, make sure to like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you haven't already to join the film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. So that's just all, and make sure to do yourself a favor and go watch a movie.